Hello and welcome back to Pluck That. I am Nick Ciraldo, and as always, joined by my friends and colleagues Mike Boyd and Jonathan Bass. This is episode 4, and we'll be interviewing Bokyung Byun in just a moment. But first, the trio will catch up a little bit and go over some news.
News.
News music.
Yeah.
All right, Boyd, what you got?
Well, not much this week other than, as per usual, I have bought another piece of gear. When I was visiting a friend here recently, it's a piece of gear I've played on a while. A little pedal that has a preamp and a really nice, unique reverb. So it's fairly basic, something that I would want to use since a lot of my amps are high headroom, or I play backline or plug right into a lot of systems. I like to have a consistent pedal platform to plug in on, and sometimes it's very bare bones. Just maybe a little character sound and something for reverb for a natural room sound. And I found a real nice piece of gear a while back that fit that bill, Keeley DDR, but for some reason this spoke to me. Nocturne Brains El Pescadoro, and I couldn't resist. I had to jump in and buy it, and I think the build time is about a month, so it hasn't come in yet, but I'm very much looking forward to it coming in, hopefully during the holidays where I have some time to put it through its paces.
It's like that craft beer you just can't say no to.
Exactly.
I was going to say there's an odd similarity between the titles for IPAs and guitar effects pedals.
Yeah.
We should have a competition where you have like a column and it shows like the name of something, and you have to tell
You have to
you,
guess.
you have to guess if it's for a beer or a pedal.
That's pretty great.
Nice. Well, while Boyd is contributing to his gear acquisition syndrome, I this past week I had a church gig, and it's a wonderful church in Baton Rouge that my wife and I have had the privilege of being able to play at over the years. But more recently, they've asked me to play in both of their services. One service is a little bit more staid and classical. We play a lot of arrangements for flute and guitar, and some arrangements that they do with choir. But in the earlier service, it's with the praise band. So they play a lot of contemporary Christian music. And that's when I put the classical guitar down and pick up the acoustic and just sort of get jamming on some chords along with their band. It's always been an interesting experience because you have to learn music fast. The music gets to you only a few days in advance. And my wife, Rachel, is a flutist, and I have to come up with music to play for these services. And because we go back frequently, we have to, we're always looking for new things to play. We don't like to repeat music for their congregation. But as a result, sometimes we're in this sort of seemingly niche area of repertoire where we're trying to find something that is in like a 2 to 3 minute time frame, not too long, not too short, is something on the meditative side. It's not too dissonant, it's kind of like a nice piece of music to play. And so it's tough to kind of find that. I will say that there's a ton of music that's been published, like it'll say wedding music for flute and guitar or church music for flute and guitar. And sadly, a lot of it is just not our cup of tea. The closest that we've been able to get to that is something called the Rosewood book. We picked that up about 25 years ago. And if you're not familiar with the Rosewood book, I highly recommend it because it's sort of these watered down versions of, greatest hits of public domain music since maybe the 1700s. And the guitar parts are pretty easy. The flute parts are somewhat closer to the original, which is nice, I think, for the flutist, and so on. But the problem is that we've done that book so often that we've just played it to pieces and want to move on. So sometimes it's hard to find good music for church for flute and guitar. And so if any of our listeners have any recommendations, drop a comment in the video in the comments on YouTube, or send us an email, because I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, that's my news. Church gigs.
Yeah, I've never heard of that book, and here it is. Yeah, looks fantastic.
It's
So,
awesome. It's
yeah,
really great.
Beethoven, Mozart, Schubert. Yeah,
Yeah.
all the hits.
Yeah. If you have a wedding gig, I highly recommend the Rosewood book.
Very cool.
And since it's single line stuff with the flute, obviously you can do it with a violinist if that's what you got. So, all right. Well, then I think that's enough news. It's time to get to rants.
What do we got this week, boys?
I have a complaint.
Oh,
So, a couple of months ago, I had the great honor of playing with orchestra, and I've played with orchestra several times in the past. And I don't mean soloing in front of the orchestra like in a concerto situation, but I'm talking about being part of the orchestra.
this is an important distinction
Oh yeah,
for our listeners. Yeah.
quite a difference. But every time I do that, I feel like the orchestra just doesn't know what to do with the guitar. There are so many aspects of this. Like, so one of them is tuning. The orchestra has a very, traditional tuning process. The oboist gives the A, and then I think it's the winds that start, and then the brass, and then the strings. But it's very quick. For most of those instruments, they just got to play one note and tune one instrument off of that one note. The strings, they got 4 strings, they got to tune, but it's fairly quick, and they're all louder than the guitar. We have 6 strings. The strings change much more quickly, and they're much more susceptible to temperature change, stuff like that, than any of the bowed strings. So we need more time, but we don't get it. I never get as much
Also,
time.
we're tempered.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
play a tempered instrument, right?
Yeah. Which is the bottom line, is that we don't have enough time to tune. Okay.
Right.
And it's annoying. You can't use an electronic tuner because and I don't recommend that in general. That's going to be another rant, by the way, down the line. But
What is it with you and electronic tuners?
I
What's
don't.
the deal with electronic? Why doesn't everybody have pitch? Perfect pitch.
Yeah, so you got to listen. You have to tune your instrument, and while you're trying to tune your guitar, you have like 50 people playing really loudly around you, and it's bananas. It's challenging. And then there's the challenge of playing with amplification. If you're playing on an acoustic instrument, you're used to projection, you're used to dynamics, you're used to how your instrument plays with others. But when you throw an amplifier into the mix, which is almost required in an orchestral setting, you are amplifying your sound. You can't quite hear what it sounds like where you are. No one's going to put a monitor in front of you to like help you better understand your sound. The conductor is always complaining that you're too loud, because they always position the amplifier straight at the conductor, which is not what you should do. And everyone around you thinks you're too loud because they're close to the amp. And so it's just like this constant battle of trying to make everybody happy, but everyone thinks you're like this sore thumb, sticking out in the ensemble. And so there's this dance that you have to play. You have to work with the house sound. If there's a house sound speaker, you have to please the conductor, you have to please the ensemble. And it's just kind of like it's always been kind of stressful for me. And then finally, I'll say there's like this struggle of being accepted in the orchestra. I think still to this day, non-guitarists have this idea of what or who a guitarist is. And so when you join the orchestra in a very kind of elite classical environment, you make one wrong mistake, they're going to look down on you. At least I perceive that. I feel like you have to almost be over prepared for those kinds of situations to show that, yeah, you can hang in an orchestra, you can be in that kind of an ensemble, you can play that kind of music and be with them. So I think the reason all this occurs is because it's just an infrequent thing. The guitar just isn't part of the orchestra. So like whenever you have like a Pops concert and they bring in someone with the drum kit, everyone hates playing with the drum kit because it's so freaking loud in the orchestra, but the house people dial in the sound and everything. There's also cartage. I forgot to mention that. A lot of people don't even know what that word means, but in the orchestral world, if you have to literally cart extra stuff onto stage, like if you're a percussionist and you got to drive like a fleet of percussive instruments from wherever it was to the hall on like a U-Haul truck, which yes, that happens all the time. You get paid extra because of all that extra work. You got to show up like an hour or two in advance, and then you're required to break it all down an hour or two after the show. So sometimes as a guitarist, you can get cartage simply for bringing your amp. But sometimes they don't even think about that. Like they think, oh, a percussionist traditionally needs this stuff, therefore they will traditionally get that extra pay. But if you're a guitarist, you have to actually tell them in advance, hey, I'm bringing my amp, just letting you know for purposes of cartage. Because
Right.
if you don't say that, they'll pay you the normal rate.
Right.
I think I'm done.
Good rant once again. We are at no loss of material for rants, I tell you.
I don't know. I'm starting to feel
Yeah,
like the
it's
Larry
going to be
David.
exactly. It's going to be a feat of restraint every time. So I have to refer to our notes all the time. Okay, rant is over. No,
All
no,
right.
no. I want to talk about electric tuners.
Um, well, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our next guest, Dr. Bokyung Byun, a phenomenal virtuosic classical guitarist who I've had the pleasure of knowing for a number of years, having invited her to Southern Miss to perform as part of her GFA concert tour. I've enjoyed her playing for many years now. Also, is just a really intelligent, delightful person. So it's my pleasure to introduce Bokyung Byun. All right, we are here with Bokyung Byun. Thank you so much for joining us this episode of Pluck That.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really excited about it, and I love the name.
Thank you.
Immediately, I thought that's a great podcast title.
Well, I'll give a shout out to my wife Rachel for thinking of that title.
Yes, Rachel.
She's the brains behind this outfit. So yeah, so we had compiled a couple of topics that we wanted to discuss with you tonight, and off we go.
All right.
So, one of the things that is impressive about your career is your competition success. And I wanted to just see if you could talk with us a little bit about that and to frame it in a way of talking about the pros and cons of entering the competition circuit.
Mm-hmm. Um, the way I started doing competitions was because that's really what I grew up doing. I started very young and just growing up, my parents would just have me compete. I mean, that sounds funny, like Pokemon, but not in that way. They thought I was doing well and they wanted to see where I was fitting in terms of level. So I would grow up doing these little competitions. And so even after that in college, none of us knew how to go about having a career as a musician. So really, I really clung on to that idea of, okay, if I do competitions, I'm gonna be able to have a career, which again, we all know is only half true, right? So I guess that's the biggest pro, which is that the most positive thing about it is that you have a goal that you're looking forward to, especially during the time when you're uncertain about your career trajectory as a music major. It's always nice. It's a way, even if you don't win, you get to meet people. It's a way to introduce yourself to others, presenters, so forth. So that always I appreciate it. The cons, this could be huge too. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but we're already very self-critical. And of course, you know this when you're on the other side of the judging table, which is that 1, 2, 3, 4, they don't really mean much. It's just on that day, this person happens to play this rap that somebody liked, or that person's nail was short that day, or it's like a very marginal things that changes how you place. But when you're on the other side of the judging table and you're playing and you think you just killed it that day, and they say, well, you didn't make it to the final, and it just hurts a lot. So that was really difficult for me because I was already very self-critical and always have this I always had this self-doubt, and even now, but so adding to that, when I wasn't really doing well in competitions, it was like a negative rabbit hole that I was going into. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the only no, the only might be too big a word. One of the few drawbacks of doing competitions is that if you're looking to win, it might not happen, and sometimes that might lead to negative output in your mind.
Yeah. So, like, whenever you did not succeed, was
Mhm.
there sort of a recovery period that you needed following the competition?
Yes and no. So, in a weird way, I'm very self-destructive in the sense that I do a lot of negative self-talk about myself, but I bounce really back quickly, almost too quickly. So it wasn't too bad for me in that sense. But there was a period of time when I thought, okay, I need to kind of stay away, regroup, rethink about it. And when I did come back to doing competition again, that's when I actually was having positive results. So I think there's something to that. Like you need to use the competitions, not let competitions use you.
Hmm.
Nice. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
I
that's
like,
very good.
okay, that was a quotable moment. Or not.
We'll put it on a t-shirt.
Yes. Yeah.
How
But
you
yeah.
said you said you started at a young age. How old were you for your first competition?
Oh, first competitions. I want to say 9 or 10. But playing little Carcassi etude kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, those were fun.
Yeah. That is one of the most difficult things about a competition, that regardless of the things that you mentioned, good having a good day, having a bad day, having a bad nail, not playing the right rep, or whatever reason you didn't succeed, it's really hard to not think it's just you that just are
Mhm.
are not good enough, you know?
Right.
Um so
It's hard. Yeah, because we're always, in a way, told that we're not good enough. And I hate thinking this way. And I try not to, but even in lessons, there's something, you're correcting something, right? Your teachers always say, they're not saying you're terrible, but they're saying, well, this needs to improve, this needs to improve. And then it's constant feedback loophole. And yeah, so that's kind of hard when you think, oh, I finally kind of did a great performance that I prepared for God knows how long, and you didn't even place, or I mean, you didn't make it to semifinal, whatever the result was that you're not looking for. So,
so
yeah.
for any competition, even the bigger ones, even the biggest ones that you've won, the ones that you did win, did you get
hmm
that kind of validation, like, oh, I am a good player? Or was it just like, I really had a good day that day, things really clicked, the nails were right, et cetera, et cetera?
Nails were right. That's the funny thing. So in the competitions where I thought I did really well, I always had terrible results, which was just terrifying to me. And then the ones that I did very well, especially the bigger ones where I thought, oh man, that just did not go the way I wanted. And then it was great. So that was already kind of confusing. But yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but it was really validating in a way for me, especially, things like GFA. Because it's not like we get a license, It's not, you don't get a license in playing guitar. Like, you just do it and just sort of tell people to listen to yourself. So that was kind of in a way, I thought, oh, okay, I'm presentable.
Yeah.
People would listen to me, like good enough. So yeah, it was a good healing moment for me in a weird way.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Well, you brought up the GFA, and for our listeners who don't know what that means, that's the Guitar Foundation of America. So, but we have all kinds of listeners, classical,
Right.
jazz, rock, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
professionals and enthusiasts alike. And so the Guitar Foundation of America is a major organization for classical guitarists, and they have an international competition once a year, and it's one of the biggest on the planet, and very competitive. And one of the prizes is that you get an enormous concert tour. I think it's something like 50 concerts in the following year. And it's thought of as a springboard for many for their careers. You get to play in a bunch of different places. It's really a boost. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, the tour. You may be sick of talking about it because everyone's sort of
Oh,
curious,
no.
but like, do you have anything to say about that whole experience?
Yeah, I mean, nothing but positive. I do have to, I mean, yes, there was negative side, which was just being busy, but which is positive. Everything was net positive. And I was at the time holding a adjunct job. I don't know, Nick, if you remember. So I would teach during the week, Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll be gone, and then do it all over again, almost nonstop for the entire year. It was fun, and I always like that kind of challenge to see, can I do this? I know a lot of people, a lot of famous people do that. Like, I want to see if I can do it. So apparently I could do it. It's just that your health goes down a lot. But um, it was nothing but positive. The people were great and exposure, right? The people you get to meet, like Nick, I got to meet you during the tour. So I really value it because when would I get a opportunity like that? Yeah, but also it made me realize that, being that busy might not be what I wanted. Because I always thought that's what you want, right? You want to live off of your suitcase because that's the musician's dream. But having done it, I can say, I don't know if I like that lifestyle too much. And I know there are people who love that, but
Right.
it just wasn't for me.
You certainly learned that the hard way, if you like it or not.
Right. But now I have no doubt in my mind in a way, so that's nice.
At what point in the tour? So, as you know, when you go on tour, it's the same program over and over again, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe the first couple of concerts, you're still kind of warming up to the idea of the program, and there may be some kinks to work out, but by the end, it's pretty nice. So, do you happen to remember at what
Oh my
concert, which
gosh.
number, where you started to feel like everything was pretty,
That's an interest. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember it just got super easy. It was amazing. I don't think I'll get that experience ever again because I mean, when would you play the same program 50 times in a row like that? Every weekend, sometimes two in a day. So but I do remember there was one. I mean, it was crazy. You would get off plane sometimes at like 5 a.m. and then you go sleep real quick and they say, okay, now we have to go to this lunchtime concert, and you're just half asleep, you just play. I was able to just play half asleep in a way, but I do remember it was middle, like halfway through the year, and this was actually after the brief break during the holiday season. So I thought, maybe I had lost it, and I didn't even get to practice, so I was just worried, worried, worried. And then I don't know, it just came out. It was amazing. I do miss that a lot.
yeah. So I had a question about, well, I'll kind of frame the question for everyone here, because Bo, you and I talked about this briefly via text a couple of months ago, but these guys don't know this story. So I had come home from work and I was going through the mail and I saw an advertisement for an upcoming subscription series to a guitar series. When you get these flyers in the mail, it usually shows all of the artists' headshots of the people who are going to be performing in that coming year as a way to kind of hype you up and get you to buy tickets. And so as long as I've been in the business, it's been like a half dozen men.
Mhm.
You see male guitarists headshots on these advertisements. In the past, I don't know, 10 years or so, there's usually one woman. And
Mhm.
I often make a joke to my wife, like, oh, there's the token female, like so that everyone's sort of feeling like they're being equitable. They'll
Inclusive, yeah.
inclusive. They'll throw one woman into the mix. But this brochure that came in the mail was all women except for one man, and I was blown away because I'd never seen that before. And of course, Bo, you were one of the performers on this series, and it's a great series. Do you remember the name? What was the name of that series that we were talking about?
Um, Allegro.
Allegro. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, just so excited to talk about that with you, and I was really impressed. But I still think that that's maybe an exception to the norm. So, I'm wondering if you might be willing to speak a little bit about being a woman in this field.
Yeah, I actually didn't even think about that series being all women. That's amazing. That doesn't really happen. Well, I do have to say, I think my generation, I mean, just guitar community in general, we're very inclusive, right? I never once felt like I didn't get the opportunity or, people were excluding me because I'm a female guitarist. I never felt that way. We're all very welcoming. So that's but I think that's also because of the work of the previous generation. I'm sure, people like Sharon they had to be the trailblazer. But when I noticed was that it could be hard, especially for younger female guitarists in the kind of guitar community trying to become or trying to have a career, is that you're just surrounded by guys all the time, just all the time. And uh, that itself is fine, but I think I this is something I noticed after the fact, is that I was trying to assimilate this kind of dude culture a lot, like, oh, hey, yo, what are you doing? I'm not like that, which I didn't know till later, after college was all done. And I kind of sat down and I'm like, oh, I don't like talking like that. I like very girly things. I like little stickers and little cute, fluffy things. And I realized, oh, I was I'm not saying no one forced me, obviously, but in a way, I felt more comfortable putting that act up, feeling like somehow to feel more included, I think. Otherwise, I was going to stand out in a weird way. And this is, again, all in my mind. But I think the new generation, the younger one, and I see, at GFA, it's always now almost half and half, even the competitors and the youth competitors too. The gender is, I think, almost half and half these days. So I hope they don't feel that anymore. And I mean, other than that, I can't say it's been too hard. I don't want to bash that too much. I do remember feeling very, this is all kind of negative self-talk, but I also really did not like that sometimes people would say female guitar, like a big banner, right, saying female guitarist.
Right.
Because why can't we just be guitarists?
Right.
Right.
I mean, she can be an amazing guitarist, right? But then they would say she is the best female, whatever it is. There's always this female category. Like, this is not a sport. It's not the same. So that used to bother me a lot. But now I know that no, when people say that, they don't mean it that way. Obviously, I was feeling very self-conscious in a way. But yeah, I think that's my take on that. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, thanks for sharing. I think it has changed over the years. I'm really excited to see that. But, when I was coming up, it was just the bros, and it was kind of sad.
And
Um,
did you feel like you had to be like broy bro in that?
um, yeah, sometimes. And I too am not that way. Yeah, I think what's interesting about the various instruments is that there are maybe certain stereotypes that you need to live up to. The guitar being maybe one of the most stereotypical,
Hmm.
not just classical guitar, but electric and yeah. So perhaps so. There was I haven't even thought about it, but looking back and how you have phrased as you have shared your story, there's probably a little bit of that in my past as well.
Hmm. It happens. Because usually the broy bros are the loudest in the group and they tend to kind of steer the conversations. Yeah, so I think I always felt like I had to one up them, right?
All right. Speaking of loudest, actually,
Is it too loud?
no, no, I'm just kidding. No, I was listening to one of your recordings the other day, and I really enjoyed the thing that stood out to me was that the fact that there was never a mystery of what the melody or the theme was at the moment, right? So your balance, the accompaniment to the melody was always like really, really nice. So that applies to not only classical guitarists, but anybody who might be listening that as finger style or whatever, or even just solo jazz. Um, what would you recommend, or how do you think about performing that way? Orchestrally, like really to bring out the theme or anything like that.
Ooh. Mm. This is like job interview now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm joking. Um, I don't know. I think I tried to approach it like in a weird way, like a conductor. I'm not saying I'm conducting, but it's just, oh no, I think the better way of saying is I'm producing myself.
Hmm.
So what I do a lot is I record and then listen back to myself a lot, a little almost too obsessively, and then because sometimes you think you're doing the things that you're it's just not carrying through, right? And a lot of times that kind of balance is one of those where, oh, I thought I was doing enough, but then when I listen to myself, it just is not, or something has to pop out a little more, whatever it is. So I'm really just sitting down and listening through and marking everything that I want to bring out. So it's a lot of kind of thinking about music without the guitar and then just giving myself feedback constantly.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, my son and I were writing while we were listening to one of your recordings,
Oh.
and he didn't know quite what I was meaning by that because I said to him what I just said to you about your balance, and you hit some bass line, and I was like, see, like a guitarist, your standard guitarist would just blare that and like play it way too loud. I was like, that's what I mean. Because it
Oh.
was so easy to really just wail on those low notes, and
Mm.
yeah, but yeah, so it seems like there has to be like an ongoing reminder, and like you said, your reminder was to record yourself again and again. I was very late to the game in doing that, and I tell my students yeah, it's like, why aren't you recording yourself? Like,
Right.
yeah, you
It
don't.
keeps you humble too.
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
nothing better than that. It's like a shock therapy. It's like, wow, this
I
is
tell
terrible, or whatever.
Just the way you phrase that, though, in describing that situation of writing and listening to music, I think so many times when we are trying to either explain to someone what to do, we always say, bring this out more, as in we want to punch that, we want to pull it up. But that idea of restraint, I think, is really important. That, as you mature as an artist, there is that give and take. Times when you do want to push things a little bit more, but other times when you just need to hold back for the sake of the music. And I think that's often overlooked in kind of a broader discussion of just being critical with ourselves or how we want to bring that across to others.
Yeah, that's really true. Hmm.
I like to tell my students that playing and listening to yourself play versus listening to a recording of yourself playing is like looking at a selfie photo of yourself and then looking at a photo that somebody took of you. The selfie is great. It's like you get to perfect it. It sounds great at the time, but then when you see a photo that somebody took of you, you're like, oh, I look like that, you know?
That's so true. Yeah, recording's great. And I think that's when I kind of quote unquote, leveled up as a like musician when I had to do a recording project. Because all of a sudden I noticed, oh my gosh, this, whatever this slur, little teeny tiny thing that I didn't even notice. I thought, oh my gosh, why am I playing like that? And then you're having to do I mean, back then I was self-producing, so I was trying to get the perfect one to somehow slice it in million cuts to make it perfect. So I realized, oh man, I need to be way more detailed than this because I cannot believe this is what people are hearing. I always thought it was great, but all of a sudden it brought me back to earth
Yeah.
in a good way.
You mentioned self-producing. What DAW were you using at the time?
Oh my gosh, I don't even, this was during COVID. Everything is a blur. And I think I was Googling how to, I don't even know.
That's fine.
It's been
That's
so
fine.
long. I think it was called, is this Audacity or something? Is that right? Okay, thank you. I always wanted to go further than that, learn a little more, but I realized the professionals are very good at it and I trust them. Mine always wasn't quite what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, and I asked about a DAW. That's a digital audio workstation. That's not a Hattiesburg slang term.
What do you use? What do you
I,
guys use?
I
I like
use
Logic. Yeah.
Logic.
I use Studio One by PreSonus.
Oh, I've never heard of that one.
Studio One. It's good.
Studio.
So next, I wanted to talk a little bit about this kind of new chapter in your life, relatively new. That being that you are a university professor, Dr. Byun.
Oh gosh.
So you're at the University of North Texas. You've been there for how many years?
I started my third year this fall.
Okay, congrats. That's great.
Thank you.
Really fantastic music program in various styles of music. Fantastic faculty, including yourself, and uh, just really great. Anything you have to say about the transition from what you were doing before to what you're doing now?
Oh, it's been fun. In a very satisfying or gratifying way. I mean, practicing, and I think I always say, I'm raising myself. I'm like a child to myself. I have to nurture and like, okay, let's practice for 2 hours. It'll be great. Whatever, self-talk. But now I get to do that to students and I get to see them grow and it's amazing. It's not because you don't really, I mean, yourself, you don't see the growth in yourself. You just one day are like, okay, I learned this piece. That's great. But I love seeing them not only grow as just guitarists, but just human being. I hope they're very happy. Because I know being a music major is just so challenging. Um, I don't know if that changed me per se. I just feel more grounded, I guess. Just it's like having your own community of guitarists. So that's been fun and heartwarming.
Any struggles to kind of get everything done in addition to your own professional activities? Like you got people pulling you in all these different directions on campus,
Oh, I see.
and you just want to go home and practice and get ready for your next concert, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, that's happening. But I think that's when the GFA tour really prepped me. That I'm able to kind of juggle a lot of things all at the same time. And I wish I had more time. I mean, we all wish we had more time. And I know that you're constantly doing amazing things. I don't know how you have so many projects. I can't. But I'm more, but yeah, I do realize teaching at university is more multi uh, you have to juggle a lot of things other than just teaching and playing. So that was a little bit of surprise to me, but it's because I'm still new and fresh, and maybe because of that, I'm kind of enjoying it. It's almost like you always saw your mom doing makeup and you thought one day I'll get to do that. And then now I'm doing it. So it's fun.
So we've all discussed our experiences, both as students and on the judging side of the table of juries, and basically, how should I put it, Nick? having non-guitarists as, you know, the jury, right? And
Ooh,
yeah, pros and cons
controversial.
of that basically. I don't know how you guys are set up at North Texas
Yeah,
to
and
do juries, but
for our listeners, a jury, so-called jury, is an end of semester exam in which the guitar, the music major would perform 10 to 15 minutes in front of a panel of music faculty. We call them juries for some reason. And that's my first complaint. It shouldn't be called a jury. It should be called a
That's an
trial.
odd thing. That's
yeah,
that's more terrifying. Imagine. I mean, but that's what it is, right? That's where they either say you passed this year, the semester or not.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, at our school, we do all string juries together. So all, violin, viola, all of the bow string plus harp and guitar. I mean, I see a lot of benefit for my students, so I mean, I love doing it. I mean, do I love listening through all of them for the entire week? No, but I think there's a lot of benefit for the guitar students because we're always, all of a sudden we're only when we're doing our studio, like you might not have to project all that much, and we're very understanding of little quirky things that we usually do, but all of a sudden, like you're put in the quote unquote real world where they say, "Whoa, why is he not projecting? Why is she squeaking everywhere? What is this?" And um but it's a good dose of challenge, I think, that they need because that's how it's going to be in the real world. It's never gonna be just like studio class where we say, that's fine, it's a guitar thing. Like you don't that nail sound is a guitar thing. Don't worry about it. So I see it in a very positive way, I think. What do you guys think usually?
We are right now dealing with the beginnings of our reaccreditation process, and it seems like we're always refining how we as a group for our work. It's the entire music faculty because we're relatively small in terms of, compared to a university setting. So we all sit in, we all encourage the students, we hear what they're doing, but it does that time that probably the comments are most valuable, not the jury grade. And a lot of people, self included, if it's not my instrument, I don't always know what the correct comments are. So it may be nice to have kind of, a non guitarist view on what's going on. So you might know what you need to bring out or what you need to do to a listener who doesn't know anything about guitar and engage them the way you might a guitarist. But one of our problems right now is we're being told for reaccreditation purposes we have to keep all this paperwork and we have to have something there for the records and the files, and we all have to have
Mhm.
matching standards, and it's a tough line now to deal with in how you present that, and be authentic but not be detrimental with our comments or not be uninformed with our comments to the students.
So I've had the privilege of being at Southern Miss for over 20 years. And when I first arrived, the guitar juries were separate. And I wanted to integrate the guitar program with the rest of the school, really. And that started at juries with the rest of the boats, with the rest of the strings, the boat strings. So I made a deal with them. You let me bring my guitar students, and write jury comments and help me grade them, and I'll do the same for your students. Of course, it was like a ratio of 1 to 5, like it sounds like it is for you, Bo. And so yeah, you got to sit through a lot of all the other instrumentalists, but like exactly like you say, you get a more of a universal perspective on music. They may be able to comment on things in a way that, frankly, they may know more about, like vibrato.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
for most guitarists, not all guitarists, but for many, sadly. And it has been great. It's just that recently I started a new curriculum, and it's involving a variety of guitar styles. And when I brought that up to my colleagues, they were a little overwhelmed because, they were they were like, Nick, enough Giuliani already, and then I was bringing, all the different styles of music to the table, and
Oh.
they were not against it. I just thought to myself, this actually might be a better kind of pedagogical moment if I brought in guitarists of those various styles. And
Mm.
so, as of last spring, it's now an all guitar panel. And it's been really nice because, yes, it's all guitarists, but they're guitarists from different backgrounds. And so, there are still some differing perspectives, even though
Mm.
all of those guitar faculty members or guests will listen to a classical guitar jury or a jazz jury or a rock jury or something like that. So
Oh.
it's very new. I think it'll take a few years to really kind of be able to, reflect on its successes, but I'm optimistic so far.
That's very cool. So, how do you guys balance the, I guess, volume from, like rock guitar, electric guitar, and just classical guitars being kind of small
Yeah.
compared to that in volume?
Well, so it's starting out, it's a very small program right now overall. And so I'm actually doing my best to cover several of those bases, but we do also have a jazz adjunct professor. And the hope is that down the line we'll have various other faculty members. We'll just need to scale up,
Mm.
get to a critical mass, and then add faculty.
That's even better because you're kind of breaking out of the even the classical bubble, right? Classical music bubble.
For better or for worse,
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder if those in our field
Deal with
see
the devil.
Yeah, there's all kinds of thoughts about that, all kinds of reflections that I've had
Hmm.
about going into this new project. But at the end of every thought journey, I come back thinking, no, this is cool. I think this is the right decision. So, so I remember watching a recording of you playing in a wonderful series. I forget what the
Omni?
Omni. Thank you, Omni series. Um, if listeners, if you're not familiar, I recommend checking it out because not only are all the performers fantastic, but the recordings are really great as well, and they're on YouTube, and you can check them out. But that when I heard you play on one of those concerts, I was struck by the version of the Ponce um,
Oh, hmm.
variations that you played, and I was shocked because there were some variations that I had never heard before, and I thought to myself that must be sort of the original version or the non-Segoviafied version, or maybe let's just call it the Alcaraz version because Alcaraz, as you know, and many other people may know, published sort of Ponce's unedited versions, or at least the versions that weren't kind of, I'll just go ahead and say it, corrupted by Segovia's editing. And so, did you have a chance to like say which version do I want to do, or was there no question, or
Oh no, that was totally my call, which was cool. I think this is after I was done with DMA, so I finally was on my own to make decisions, which was terrifying. But so I had learned that the theme variation finale, I had learned it just so long ago that the Segovia version, and I remembered it being I didn't click with it so well back then. I always thought it was kind of repetitive, it's boring. Then I came across this edition through a friend. That's right. That's how I got to know it. I went to Aspen Music Festival where a friend of mine was playing that edition. And this is a little bit different. This is Tillman Hofstad, and it's almost the same. I think a couple of things are different. So I thought, oh wow, this just sounds completely different. It just sounded more modern. It was more interesting. Harmony was going by faster. The variations were you get to go through different variations so quickly. So I always wanted to learn that, and I think Omni was the first place I got to
Oh,
perform that at.
yeah. I'm still blown away that some people prefer one version over another today, including like the Villa-Lobos etudes or other pieces that have been edited by some guitarists. It's really fascinating to me. Well, I'm glad that you were able to. I'm glad that you did that. That showed me yet another example of Ponce's work. It sounded great, and so I just wanted to ask you about that.
Gotta nerd out sometimes. I really like that. Yeah, because the other one is just so repetitive, you know? Because he adds the repeats in the middle of it, so it's AAB if I'm not mistaken. This one just through, just AB done. And then next, so actually the whole thing is longer because they're the added, or I guess the pre-existing variations that Segovia got rid of, but somehow because it's just AB without any repetition, it just feels faster. The pacing and the music, and I think Segovia wanted to build up the momentum, so it actually kind of starts slowly, and then the variation gets more intense, intense, intense. But Ponce one, it's kind of all over the place, but in the most perfect way, because it keeps you guessing. Is the next one gonna be slow or, jazzy? Is this tremolo or something virtuosic, whatever? So, yeah.
Yeah, it still boggles the mind that somebody would cut out variations and do such editing as if they were the composer. Just sad. So I know that you recently did a recording project. Would you mind talking about that with us, or you want to talk to us
Oh,
about your next
yes.
creative project? Or
Or
Yeah,
should
so
we keep
speaking,
going? Should we keep going
sorry.
about how Segovia is overrated?
Oh, no. No, I mean, with that being said, I do. There was like a whole trend when I was in college of just let's shit on Segovia,
I
Sorry
know,
for my
right?
French, but everyone's
Yeah.
like, oh, Segovia. But I didn't say it back then, but I actually kind of like his stuff, I love his repertoire and some of the editing I totally love. A lot of Tedesco stuff. So that's the segue. So the recording was the kind of complete Castelnuovo Tedesco. And a lot of it was obviously edited by Segovia. And I tried to tread it carefully with this one because I think the editing was done cleverly. And maybe it was maybe because I'm just speculating. Castelnuovo Tedesco was maybe a little more vocal about keeping his versions more true to the way he wanted versus Ponce. But yeah, so I was trying to not over correct it. And even during the recording process, I noticed, I mean, I had added some notes back from the manuscript version back into the Segovia edition. But then in the process of playing, I thought, now I see why he had gotten rid of the secondary voice because yes, it's great to keep the accompaniment going the same each time, but because of then the melody was suffering a little bit or whatever it was. So it was a fun project. And for example, I did the tarantella, and there's the whole measures, a lot of measures actually that Segovia slashed. I thought about putting them back in because they sound great, but at the same time, it's kind of a nostalgic addition for me because that's the one that I grew up listening to and that I love, so I just kind of kept it. Yeah, so does it end abruptly the way it is? Yes, but that's kind of fun. So yeah, so that was the recording project that I was doing just last week.
right. Well, we can't wait to listen to that. But you're right about, you were talking about how it's a nostalgic thing for you to play that version. Um, I was talking with somebody about this a long time ago. When you have two different versions, the person who I was speaking with said, well, maybe both versions are valid. Maybe if
Mhm.
people are enjoying both versions, you know, they should both exist.
Right.
Um, um,
That's totally true. I think so. Might have strong opinions,
yeah.
but yeah.
Did you say what's the entire Tedesco?
Oh no, I
No.
would have died if I
Yeah.
did that. No, it was I think more of the greatest hits of Tedesco. So it had the sonata, Suite Opus 133, if I'm wrong, then the number's not correct. But that one, and I did some of the Platero and I.
Nice. I've
What
always
else?
wanted to do that.
Tarantella. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lovely set. I actually didn't know too much about it before this because I always thought, well, that's you have to do that with narrator. But I really enjoyed doing it. It's kind of little cute little desserts. I think that was it. Taro and yeah, and Tarantella.
That's a great program. Nice
Ah,
selection.
thank you. Yeah, I always liked Tedesco, and I was I was in my first or second year at col in college, and I thought I learned everything, right? Because you're so cocky, you're freshman. You're like, I know every rep on the guitar. And but I didn't even know Costello Tedesco, so I don't know what I was talking about. But then my teacher so I was feeling burnt out. I thought, ah, I hate playing this. I hate playing this. I can't play. I already played it. And then my teacher showed me, well, do you want to try playing this? Which was the sonata. And in a way, it kind of changed my life. It was so difficult for me back then that it humbled me just instantly. But also, his music's so dense, and I don't think back then I was really exposed to such dense music. So yeah, it has a special place in my heart.
Great. That's great. Uh, Again, can't wait to hear it. Do you know when it'll come out?
I believe sometime in January.
Fantastic. Um, Bokyung Byun's music is everywhere online. She's performing all over the world. Look her up. Do you have a website?
I do, and it's so easy address, which is just my name, bokyungbyeon.com.
Great. And Bo, I just wanted to say that it's been a total pleasure to chat with you on this episode. We're very honored to have you talk with us, and can't
Thank
wait to
you.
hear the Tedesco album. Keep doing great things at UNT, and hope to see you soon.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for having me. This was really fun. I hope I didn't talk your ears off.
It's been wonderful.
But
Not at
yeah.
all. All right. Thank you very much. Bokyung Byun. All right, so that's episode 4 of Pluck That with Dr. Bokyung Byun. I'd like to announce our next guest. It's actually going to be the husband and wife duo, the folks who run Earthquaker Devices. Really honored to have them on next. I would like to invite all of our listeners to send questions for any of our upcoming guests. You can also send us feedback. And the way you can do that is by leaving a comment on any of our YouTube videos or episodes on YouTube. Also, while you're on YouTube, be sure to like our videos and subscribe to the channel. And you can also email us at pluckthatguitarpodcast@gmail.com. See you next time.
Pluck that.
Pluck that.
Like that.